Hey folks, this is Kelani. We're going to have quite the selection of content when Battle for Azeroth rolls around, but I can't help but feel some of the new systems have fallen by the wayside in some players' minds. When we were finally able to test warfronts properly, even I took a bit of a step back thinking, whoa, yeah, okay, warfronts are a thing, where have they been until now? They just kind of dumped the entire thing on us like, yep, this is it, here you go, good luck and have fun. I kind of feel like the same thing has happened to the island expeditions. People seem to have almost forgotten about them. Yes, we can venture out onto islands, yes, there's a whole variety of places we can end up, and the weather, monsters, treasures, traps, all of that stuff is going to be random for the most part. It's pretty exciting to me, but we just haven't talked about it that much. I guess it didn't help that we had access to islands very briefly before they were disabled, and they were sort of sneakily stuck back in with pretty much everything in its place. The island expeditions are looking way more polished and way more complete than they did when we saw them previously, so let's jump in and see how this system actually works. We're still in beta for a few weeks, so stuff could change in that time, but I would be surprised if anything huge or major actually changed before this all goes live. Okay, so how do we go about unlocking island expeditions? It seems like the dev team has finally settled on opening this up halfway through the leveling process. At around level 115 or 116 you should be able to pick up a quest to head out on a little adventure by yourself and play the practice island, which will explain everything about island expeditions, what the goal is, how to go about achieving that goal, and just what to expect from island expeditions overall. After you complete that tutorial quest, island expeditions will open up for your entire account, so you shouldn't have to redo this quest on alts if you don't want to. There's a few restrictions on difficulty though. Normal mode islands can be joined from level 110 and up, but heroic, mythic and PvP islands can only be joined at max level. So you'll be able to hop into the easiest difficulty on any alts, maybe even get some experience while doing so. Probably not the most efficient way to level, but hey, I guess it could be an option, and to do anything more difficult you'll need to get to 120 first. To queue up for an island expedition, you'll just need to visit your docks. For the Horde, you have to trek all the way down to the port of Zandalar and find the table next to the Mother Lode dungeon entrance. For the Alliance, you just need to head outside of your main hub and it's pretty much right in front of you. Click on the table and you should get this UI. So there's quite a few islands we have access to, but the way in which the system works is that 3 islands or maps are active at a time, and when you queue up for an island you can get any of those 3 at random. So you can't actively choose which island you end up on, and all of the islands won't be available at the same time, but week to week you should get quite a variety of islands if you're queuing up often. You can see right now we can zone into the Rotting Mire, the Verdant Wilds, or Ungol Ruins. Next week should be a different 3, and the week after that, etc, until everything loops around. This could be a little annoying if specific rewards come from specific islands, which I assume they do, so you'll have to keep an eye on the island rotation if you're scouting for something specific. At the bottom we have our difficulties: normal, heroic, mythic and PvP. Pretty straightforward. Normal is easy, heroic is a little harder, and mythic is harder again. And then if you queue for a PvP island, you're actually queuing against other players from the opposite faction instead of against the new smarter NPCs. I imagine most of us will start out on the lower PvE difficulties and finally step into PvP when we think we're ready. This could be a fantastic addition to the game. There's so much potential for outplaying the opponents, sneaking up on them and stealing their kills, stalking them through the shadows, or just outright blocking them from a prized source of Azerite. It's definitely more fun than any of the battlegrounds we've had access to for the last 10 years, in my opinion. Then we have the last part of this UI. There's a weekly quest at the top, which is a completion bar that tracks how much Azerite you've collected throughout your island adventures this week. You have to get 40,000 Azerite to fill it all the way up, and if you manage to do so, you'll be awarded with 1,800 artifact power. 40,000 might sound like a lot, but this shouldn't be too bad. To claim victory on an island, you have to collect 6,000 Azerite before the opposite faction, so if you manage to win all of your islands, you just need to finish 7 island expeditions to complete this weekly quest. A nice little bonus if you're running these fairly often each week. The best part of island expeditions is that they work kind of in the same way as scenarios did back in Mists of Pandaria. They're 3-man content and they don't have any role limits or restrictions. You can hop in with 3 tanks if you wanted to, 3 DPS works fine too, or if you can somehow find a way to heal everything to death, I'm sure 3 healers would work out eventually as well. Any combination you can think of can join up together, or you can just join up solo and see who you get paired with. 1 tank, 1 healer, 1 DPS might end up being the easiest approach, but there's plenty of pickups on the island to heal yourselves, and there's some special bonus items which can aid you in a variety of ways as well, so it might not be required to rely on the good old trinity of tank, healer and DPS. It's your call. So what's an island expedition all about? You're thrown onto one of the 3 maps which are available for the current week, and you have to obtain 6,000 Azerite before the opposite faction. You can collect Azerite in a variety of different ways from a variety of sources. Monsters reward Azerite, rares reward more Azerite and are usually keeping a hoard of the stuff nearby. Azerite just pops up out of the ground ready to mine. You can find chests laden with the stuff, and there's even special events which spawn even more Azerite. If you want to risk going after it. Some events include huge spires of Azerite protected by huge Azerite monsters, others spawn portals and a whole bunch of extra mobs. You can take out the mobs if you want to for their meagre sums of Azerite, or you can hop into their portals to be taken down to their boss, who is always worth a good chunk of the wonderful gold blue stuff. You can also run into quests on the island. Some folks get themselves stuck in traps, others want you to do them a favour or two. These quests also reward Azerite, so they're usually worth doing. If you're worried about not having a tank or a healer, there's a few things on the island which can help you get stuff done. Whenever you kill a rare mob, they drop a globule of Azerite. Picking it up will give you a pretty hefty damage buff and heal your entire party to full health. You can also find food scattered around which will heal you, and there's also shrines which provide a variety of buffs. Now be careful with the shrines, because while they are potent buffs, they all come with a heavy risk. You can increase your damage significantly, but you'll take significantly less healing. You can increase your healing done and healing received, but you can no longer block, dodge or parry. All of these shrines carry some form of risk-reward gameplay, which makes them even more fun in my opinion. Just be careful what you end up with, because the only way to get rid of the shrine buffs is to die, or wait out the 10-minute timer. Neither of those options is particularly ideal. There are also items you can purchase at the start of your expedition on your starting boat. The vendor should be right next to you and can sell a whole variety of items which could really turn the tides in a battle with huge monsters or the opposite faction. To purchase any of these items you'll need some doubloons, a new currency which is specific to island expeditions, following the good old pirate theme. As far as I know, they only come from island expeditions and you can only spend them during island expeditions, so you'll have to play a few islands before you can buy any of this stuff. You're also going to have to look at your map pretty often to keep track of where you are and where you want to go. Areas of interest are marked on the map with a red cross. When you first start your expedition you have 3 crosses marked for you, and more will be marked as time goes on. You have a timer for the Azerite locating device, and when that runs out, all available Azerite will be marked on your map, and that's when the fun events start cropping up. You also have fog of war on these islands, so you can only see updated info around each player on the map. Anything that's grey won't show you updated info until you go exploring it for yourself. So you have to decide where to go, which type of event do you feel comfortable handling, and most importantly, do you want to fight or avoid the opposite faction? Because all of this Azerite isn't just for you. A team of Alliance or Horde will also be trying to collect as much Azerite as they can, and there isn't really enough to go around, so you'll either have to beat them to the punch, or punch their lights out a few times. It might be worth avoiding them at the start and then going after them halfway through though. As each player collects Azerite, they sort of work up a bounty. You have a debuff which shows how much Azerite you are worth when you're killed. Obviously if the enemy manages to kill you, they'll get however much Azerite you're worth. Your entire team dying halfway through the adventure could give them over 500 Azerite, which is a huge chunk of the required 6,000, but if you can get to them first, they also have a bounty. Again, it's going to come down to risk versus reward. If you can catch them trying to kill a huge monster, that's probably the best scenario. Take out the enemy faction, and then clean up their kill for yourselves. Good old 1-2 punch. If you queue into normal, heroic or mythic mode, you'll be facing smarter NPCs who won't just tunnel you and follow you everywhere you go. They'll try to escape, they'll try to CC your healer, they'll outright avoid you if they think that's the best course of action. On normal they don't seem too bad, they just jump around all over the place. On heroic they seem to be more difficult to deal with, whether that's because they're actually using more abilities and being smarter about it, or they're just beefier and deal way more damage, I'm not too sure. Mythic is quite a challenge right now, but I imagine as we gear up we'll overpower even Mythic islands before too long. So what's in it for you? Why should you care about these island expeditions? The main reward seems to be Azerite, or Artifact Power, whatever they decide to call it by the time this hits live servers. You're awarded 300 for a win. That reward didn't change between normal and heroic, so maybe this is placeholder right now, but 300 for a win and then 1800 for the weekly quest. If you play 7 islands and win them all, that's 3900 Artifact Power in your pocket. Not bad for a week's work, but there are quite a few other goodies you can get your hands on. Firstly, there's a crazy amount of achievements tied to the islands. You get achievements for a whole bunch of stuff, including just completing the maps, killing all of the different NPC teams, and making good use of the special items available to you. You can also pick up 5 different mounts: the Craghorn Chasm Leaper, Kinshaw's Eternal Hound, Squawks the Parrot, your very own Jellyfish, as well as the Twilight Avenger. If mounts aren't enough to spark some interest, there's also 28, that's right, 28 pets available from Island Expeditions. I really just can't believe how many pets you can get. Anything from skeletal monkeys, new elementals, a little octopus, so many pets. If you're a collector of any sort, achievements, mounts or pets, Island Expeditions are going to be a treasure trove just waiting to be raided. I imagine islands will definitely be on many players' to-do list and they're shaping up to be so much more fun, but they're also a fantastic baseline to add on to later. Think about it, with how everything is set up, all they need to do is add in more maps, more faction teams, and maybe a few more rewards, and this stuff will just replay itself over and over again. I wonder how many islands we'll have access to at the end of the expansion compared to the start. Definitely something to keep track of. But that's how Island Expeditions are looking as we approach the actual launch of Battle for Azeroth. We're getting so close. What do you think of Island Expeditions so far? Do you think you'll be spending a lot of time with them? Leave all your thoughts in the comments section below. A big thank you to all of our supporters over on Patreon. If you want to hop on that train, you can find a link in the description below. Remember to leave a like just below the video before you leave, and if you want to see more, make sure to subscribe. But apart from that, thanks for watching folks, good luck and have fun, and as always I will see you next time.